The day they called me into HR, I still believed it was about the promotion. I'd been with the company 6 years, long hours, perfect reports, weekends on standby. I was the one they called when things fell apart. So when I saw that email, "Please meet with HR at 3 p.m. regarding recent project discrepancies," I thought it was a formality, maybe a new assignment, maybe even a raise. Instead, I walked into the meeting room and saw 3 people, my manager, the HR director, and Maya. That's when my stomach dropped. Maya had been my closest friend at the office. We'd started around the same time, bonded over bad coffee and worse deadlines. Lunch breaks turned into happy hours. She knew about my breakup, my mom's illness, the nights I cried in the parking lot after 14-hour shifts. She was the one who told me, "You're the only one I actually trust here." I believed her. So when I sat across from her in that sterile HR room, watching her twist a pen between her fingers, I didn't understand. Not yet. "Anna," my manager began, "we've reviewed the data from the Brigham account. There's a serious issue with the invoices." I frowned. What kind of issue? "They were altered. Payment approvals signed off under your ID for totals that don't match the vendor reports." What? I blinked. That's not possible. I didn't touch the invoices after submission. The HR director slid a printed report across the table. "Your credentials were used to authorize over $20,000 in overpayments." It felt like the floor had tilted. I flipped through the papers, timestamps, signatures, my username, all correct, all fake. "I didn't do this," I said. My voice came out smaller than I wanted. "Someone used your login?" the manager asked. "Yes, it has to be." And that's when Maya spoke for the first time. "I saw her working late last week," she said softly. "She said she needed to fix something fast before the audit. I didn't think anything of it, but—" She let the sentence hang. I turned toward her, heart pounding. "What are you talking about? You were with me that night?" Her expression was apologetic, the kind people wear when they've already decided what side they're on. "I'm sorry, Anna. I just thought you were under pressure." My mouth went dry. "You know I would never do that." She didn't meet my eyes. By the end of that meeting, I was suspended pending further review. By the next morning, my access badge stopped working, and by the end of the week, I was officially terminated for ethical misconduct. Just like that. 6 years gone. No severance, no reference. Maya didn't call, not once. I kept replaying it, the fake invoices, the missing log files, the sudden HR audit that came out of nowhere. Someone had planned this, and the more I thought about it, the clearer it became. It wasn't random. It wasn't a mistake. Maya had set me up. But what I didn't know then, what I was about to find out, was why. The first week after I lost my job felt like a blur. Mornings didn't have a reason anymore. I'd wake up at 6 out of habit, pour coffee, and stare at the kitchen wall, trying to understand how everything I'd built had vanished overnight. It wasn't just the money. It was the reputation, the trust, the way people stopped answering my calls once the rumor spread. It's funny how fast people move on when your name becomes a liability. 3 weeks in, I got the call that broke the silence. It was Greg, one of the senior analysts from my old team. "Hey, Anna," he said cautiously. "I probably shouldn't be calling, but I thought you should know something." My heart started racing. "What is it?" He hesitated. "Maya got promoted. Yesterday. She's the new operations lead for Brigham accounts." For a few seconds I couldn't speak. "Promoted?" "Yeah," he said. "It's weird, right? HR said it was for exemplary crisis management. She's basically running your old role." I hung up before I said something I'd regret. My hands were shaking. It all made sense now. She hadn't just set me up. She'd been planning it. That night I went back through everything. Emails, messages, shared drives. I still had my personal copies of some project files, things I'd backed up in case of system crashes. I started looking at timestamps, document edits, login histories I'd exported to my own folder months ago. And then I saw it. One of the altered invoices, the same one HR said I'd manipulated, had a metadata tag. It wasn't from my computer. It was from Maya's. I stared at the code like it was a lifeline. The system had recorded the device ID that last accessed the file before the changes. Hers. Proof. Except no one at the company would ever listen. I was already branded the problem, so I decided to go around them. I reached out to a contact I'd met through a previous vendor, an IT consultant named Theo. He owed me a favor for helping him land a subcontract last year. I just need help tracing some edits, I told him. I think someone used my credentials. He agreed to take a look. 3 days later, he called back. Anna, he said, you're not crazy. Someone cloned your login session using a mirrored VPN profile. They'd have needed direct access to your workstation to pull it off. So it had to be someone on site. Exactly. Someone who knew your schedule, when you left, when you logged in. My chest tightened. She used my computer. Theo hesitated. You didn't hear this from me, but your name's still being mentioned at their headquarters. HR's been scrambling since some of the audit files didn't match up. If you want to fight this, now's your window. The next morning, I put on the same blazer I'd worn to that first HR meeting, partly out of defiance, partly to remind myself I still belonged in a professional world. I walked straight into the corporate office. Security hesitated when they saw my name badge, but I told them I had a meeting with the HR director. It was a lie. When I got upstairs, I found Maya first. She was in the glass-walled conference room, laughing with 2 managers. My replacement. The moment she saw me, the smile froze. Anna, she said, standing up. What are you doing here? I stepped inside, calm but shaking inside. We need to talk. The room went quiet. I know what you did, I said, and I can prove it. Her face turned pale. What are you talking about? I placed a flash drive on the table. Metadata, IP logs, device IDs. You framed me. She glanced at the managers, both of whom suddenly looked unsure. And then she did something I didn't expect. She laughed. Do you really think anyone's going to believe you? She said softly, leaning forward. You're the one who got fired for fraud. You're the one no one trusts anymore. I stared at her, the woman I once called my friend, and realized this wasn't panic or guilt I was seeing. It was pride. She'd won, and she wanted me to know it. But she didn't know that HR was about to get a call from an outside IT consultant with everything Theo had uncovered. And when that happened, her perfect little promotion would crumble. For 2 days after confronting Maya, I didn't hear anything. No call from HR, no messages from anyone inside the company. Just silence, the same kind of silence I'd lived with since the day they fired me. I started to think Theo's report had vanished into the void. Maybe Maya had buried it. Maybe I'd been stupid to think truth mattered. Then on Thursday morning, my phone rang. Anna, this is Rachel from HR, the voice said, tight and careful. We'd like you to come in for a follow-up conversation about the Brigham audit. Just like that. No apology. No context. But I knew that tone, the kind people use when they've realized they might be the ones in trouble now. When I arrived, Rachel met me in the lobby herself. She looked different this time. Not like an authority figure, more like someone walking into a storm. We sat down in the same conference room where they'd fired me 6 weeks ago. But this time, Maya wasn't there. Instead, there were 2 new faces, compliance officers from corporate. One of them opened a folder and said, Ms. Daniels, thank you for coming. We've reviewed new evidence related to your termination. It appears your login credentials were compromised through internal access. Do you know who might have had access to your workstation? I didn't even hesitate. Yes, Maya Lewis. The man nodded. We're aware. She's been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. My heart pounded so hard I thought I'd be sick. It was happening. They knew. Rachel looked me in the eye. "I want to personally apologize, Anna. You were wrongfully dismissed. We've retracted your termination and will issue a formal statement clearing your record." The words felt unreal, like hearing your own name in a dream. When I left that building, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't even feel relieved. I just felt empty. 6 years of loyalty, trust, and friendship, erased and rewritten by one jealous coworker who wanted my job. And now that I finally had justice, all I could think was how none of it gave me my life back. That night, I sat in my apartment scrolling through LinkedIn. Dozens of messages had already come in, recruiters, ex-colleagues, even people I barely remembered, all suddenly so sorry and glad to hear the truth came out. One message stopped me cold. It was from Maya. Just 2 sentences. "You couldn't just let it go, could you? You think they'll keep you after this?" For a moment, I almost deleted it, but instead, I took a screenshot and forwarded it straight to HR. If she wanted to burn bridges, I was done holding the water. A week later, the company announced her official termination for misconduct. No details, of course. They never admit too much, but the whispers spread fast. Falsified records, misused access credentials, unprofessional behavior. All the things they'd once said about me. And now, they were her truth to live with. Still, I didn't go back. Even though they cleared my name and offered reinstatement, I couldn't imagine sitting in that same gray cubicle, pretending it hadn't all happened. I thanked them for the offer, signed the settlement papers, and walked away. Starting over sounded terrifying, but staying in that place, surrounded by ghosts of who I used to trust, sounded worse. I found a new job 3 months later, smaller firm, tighter team, no politics. My new boss was kind but blunt. On my first day, she said, "We all screw up sometimes, just don't hide it when you do." I smiled and said, "Don't worry, I've learned that lesson the hard way." And I meant it. One night, months later, I ran into Maya again, at a grocery store downtown. She looked different, hollow, like someone who'd lost more than a job. She stopped when she saw me. "Anna," she said softly, "you got what you wanted." I looked at her, the woman who destroyed my career and then her own. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger, just pity. "No," I said. "I got what I deserved. You got what you earned." And I walked away. It took nearly a year to feel normal again. Not the kind of normal where everything is perfect, just the kind where you can wake up, drink your coffee, and not feel like the world is waiting to collapse on you. After the company settled, I paid off my debts, closed my old email account, and stopped checking social media. I needed quiet, not apologies, not pity, just space. At first, I thought I'd never trust anyone in a workplace again. Every smile felt fake. Every compliment sounded rehearsed. But healing isn't about forgetting. It's about noticing the damage and deciding to keep going anyway. 6 months into my new job, my manager called me into her office. "Anna," she said, "we're expanding the compliance department. I want you to lead it." For a second, I thought I misheard her. "Me?" She nodded. "You've been through what most people only read about in HR manuals. You see problems before they happen. We need that." That afternoon, as I updated my title in the system, I couldn't help smiling. Not because of the promotion, but because this time I'd earned it without anyone having to fall for me to rise. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd been destroyed by a fraud investigation, and now I was helping prevent them. Every file I reviewed, every audit I led, felt like taking back a little piece of control Maya had tried to steal. It wasn't revenge. It was redemption. One morning, I got a letter in the mail, handwritten, no return address. I opened it and instantly recognized the handwriting. "Anna, I know you have no reason to believe me, but I need to say this. I didn't mean for things to go as far as they did. I panicked. I was afraid of losing everything. I didn't realize I'd already lost the only real friend I had. Maya? I read it twice, then folded it neatly and slid it into a drawer. Not out of forgiveness, out of closure. Because sometimes forgiveness isn't about letting someone back in. It's about letting yourself finally stop caring. I never saw Maya again after that. Last I heard, she'd left the city. Some people said she moved back in with her parents. Others said she was trying to start over somewhere new. Maybe she did. Maybe she didn't. Either way, it wasn't my story to follow anymore. A year to the day after I was fired, I walked past my old office building. New logo on the door, new people coming in and out, but the same smell of burnt coffee and cheap carpet. For a moment, I just stood there, remembering that terrified version of myself who thought her world had ended in that HR room. I wanted to tell her it was going to be okay. That one day, she'd look back and thank life for ending the wrong chapter so she could start the right one. So I whispered it anyway. Thank you. And I kept walking. Because sometimes being broken isn't the end. It's the part where you finally rebuild, this time on your own terms.